Learning how to learn is a skill, and the more that you practice and improve on that skill, the higher level of mastery you gain. So here are the 7 levels of mastery that you can attain when learning how to learn. These are the 7 levels of studying, and I'm also going to be explaining them through the use of anime characters. Level 1. Level 1 students are what you call your passive students, so you can think of them as your denjis. They're more focused on other things, and the way they study is they would just like read the lecture notes or watch a summary on YouTube, and they're not really bothered about trying to get too in-depth into the material and do questions and stuff like that. They just think, if I just read it a couple of times, I should be able to know everything that's within the textbook. And for each level, we're going to discuss the probability that they are going to get a high mark. So for level 1, it's going to be quite a low probability that these sort of students are going to get a high mark in an exam, because all they're just doing is reading and rereading their notes, maybe even highlighting them. They're not doing any active recall, spaced repetition, or none of that stuff. Level 2. These sort of students are what you call your Monkey D. Luffy's. What they are, they're called repeaters, and you can guess by their name. All they just do is repeat the lecture slides over and over and over again. They write them down, they say them out loud, but they never try to go do like further reading or expand their knowledge on the material. They are very good at memorizing surface level facts, but they struggle a lot when it comes to the application. Just like Luffy, they think that if they just keep on banging their head against the wall, if they just keep on studying harder, they think they're going to get the knowledge. You also have to be smart with your studying and not just write down the notes again and again and again endlessly. That's going to lead you to nowhere. That's not a good form of studying. For level 2, the probability that this student is going to get a high mark is still quite low, not as low as level 1 of course, but yeah, as I said before, if there's like questions that they just require you to know a fact or something, it's a high chance they're going to get those sort of questions. But for application or discussion or more lengthy style questions, I doubt they're going to do very well. Level 2 students have the mindset of, if I write it down enough, then I'll remember it, which is somewhat true, but not entirely true. That's like a tip of the iceberg for like knowing how to study. Level 3. For level 3 students, these are what you call your crammers, and everybody has at least crammed once in their lifetime. If you didn't say you crammed, then you're probably lying, but yeah, as the name suggests, they study and they pull all-nighters the night before the exam because they didn't have enough time to study before the exam. And the person to represent this level, I would argue, would be Deku, because he has to do a lot of saving the city from All For One. Crammers, they like to just pull all-nighters and just work endlessly until the night before the exam. And although actually cramming is sort of good, because you will study, because the adrenaline will come up and you're going to have like 10 Red Bulls, like 20 coffees and whatever, and you're going to be able to remember all the information, and you might even do quite well in the exam. The probability that the person is going to get high is actually like a mediocre amount. But this sort of strategy or this sort of mindset to have, that if I just study a week or a couple of nights before the exam, I'll be able to get good grades, is not a good thing to develop for the long term, because the exams are going to get harder, so you won't just be able to cram the night before and get a good grade. That's number 1. And number 2, all the information that you cram the night before, that gets put into your short-term memory, but it won't be transferred to your long-term memory. So as a result, you might remember it for that exam, but you're not going to remember it for like future exams where that topic may come up again. So although cramming may be good for a short term, if you literally did not study at all, then of course the best thing to do is revise. And well, some people may argue actually it's better to like revise a small amount and get a good night's sleep, rather than to revise for long amounts and get like horrible sleep. Either way, I think, in my opinion, if you didn't do any revision, you should be cramming, because you want to know as much information as possible before the exam. But yeah, cramming isn't good if you want to study and retain that information for long term. Cramming can be good if you spend all of your studying time as if you are cramming, because then that allows you to make the most of your studying time and not make sure you spend like 6 hours studying but didn't get any work done in the first place. Level 4. This is what you call your organized student, otherwise known as your Shikamaru. Actually, to be fair, Shikamaru may not be the best person for level 4, the organized student. He'd probably just think making a timetable is a drag. He probably wouldn't even study in the first place. Did he study for his tuning exams? Anyway, so yeah, your organized student, as the name suggests, they're leveled like 10 out of 10 in organizing. So they make neat notes, they make flashcards, they make a timetable, they space out their learning, and they prep for study sessions in advance, and they do all of that stuff. And the main thing is for this level is that you're consistent with your studying and you're consistent with the topics that you're revising like on a daily basis from day to day or week to week. It's not that you revise when you want to or when you think you should be, like every now and then. You revise consistently from day to day. That's the main point of this organized student. They have the mindset of, if I stay on top of my work, then I'll be fine. The probability that they're going to get a high number of marks, it's actually quite good. It's like a medium. They are going to be consistent, and if you're consistent in anything, you're going to improve. But again, now we're trying to get that like depth of knowledge in, and in this level, you're not quite there yet to get that depth of knowledge, unfortunately. So you still need to learn how to master some new studying skills in terms of like active recall and stuff like that in order to make sure that you get the most amount of benefit out of your studying. Level 5. This is what we call the active learner, otherwise known as your Senkus, with a 10 billion IQ. I can't lie, Dr. Stone is actually a pretty good anime, although I haven't seen past the like mini village war that they had, or like past season 2. The last time I remember that big guy got frozen or something and they were talking about Mario. Anyway, yeah, it's quite a good anime. I'd recommend it. What was I going to say? Active learners. Active learners finally understand the idea of active recall and they're trying to incorporate it throughout all of their studies. They're doing past paper exam questions. They're doing flashcards. They're trying to remember the notes from their memory. So they're literally, now it's like they find out what active learning is. They're trying to put it into all of their things. So although they might not be like the most strategic in terms of the way that, because you can't just be doing active learning the whole time. You can be technically doing it, which is what the guys on this level are doing. It's like you're trying to push too hard on the gas pedal. Yeah, you can't just be doing full throttle active recall all the time. It's not going to be the most efficient. But again, we are getting pretty like high in terms of the amount of marks that we can get. These sort of people are actually pretty good in terms of the probability of getting a high mark in an exam. So these students confidently can recall the knowledge from their brain in an exam, and they can apply the knowledge in the exam. That's the key thing. They can apply the knowledge that they know in the exam. They understand understanding, and they know that understanding is more important than memorization. So they're not just like memorizing key facts, but they're also trying to understand all of the information that they are being presented with. The main things that they also do as well, they also check, like for example, examiner reports. They focus on their key weaknesses, so they're targeting their learning as well. They're not just learning like mathematics or like binomial expansion for the sake of it. They're doing the topics that they know they're struggling on the most. They're trying to get the most bang out of their buck for the amount of studying that they do. So yeah, that's level 5, active learners, otherwise known as your Senkus. Level 6. Level 6 is what you call your strategist. These are what you call your Lelouches or your Ayana Kojis. To be honest, I couldn't choose which one to use, so I'm just saying both of them. I haven't watched either of those anime. I need to watch them. Classroom Really, I've seen like memes about it. It looks pretty good. Lelouch is from an old anime. I can't remember what the name of the anime was though. So anyway, level 6 is what you call your strategist. These are the guys that are making use of other study techniques and other ways to prepare yourself for the exam rather than just like active recall. They're making use of spaced repetition, interleaving, like exam preparation techniques, learning how to manage your time in the exam, learning how to manage your stress in the exam. So these guys are not just focusing on trying to remember the information from their brain. They're thinking of along the line of like, it's not about what I know, it's about how I perform in the exam. So this is where they are like more efficient with their time, and they're able to understand more than the other peers, and they're also able to manage their stress more like well compared to the other people in their classroom. So yeah, the strategist is now fully incorporating most of like the study techniques that are well known into their studying, which allows them to get a high probability, like very good chance they're going to get a high level of marks in their exams. But we still have one more level to go, and the final level, level 7, is what we call your mastery student. I won't tell you the anime character associated with this level until the end. Before I get to the end of this thing, put a comment in the comment section down below and tell me which anime character you think I'm going to say. I want to see you guys' responses. Anyway, the mastery student, these sort of students, they deeply understand all of the topics that are being taught in the classroom. They don't only know the stuff that's within the classroom, but they also do extra reading and extra learning, like reviewing extra material outside the classroom. These sort of students aim to learn the subject, not just learn the specification, because they prioritize making sure they understand everything about the topic fully. As their name suggests, they don't just learn to study the subject and get a good grade in the exam. They learn because they want complete and total mastery over the subject. They're learning literally for the sake of learning. They're not learning for a good grade or to get good marks in the exam. They're learning just to be able to know more about that subject. People who are mastery students, you often see them predicting exam questions, what sort of things are going to come up in the exam before the exam starts, and they can often adapt or answer problems related to topics that they haven't even seen before within the classroom, because they've done that wider research, so they know more stuff. So as a result, they have more tools in their arsenal to be able to answer any unseen problem. Their probability of success of a high mark in the exam is extremely high. They're most likely going to get top grades in all of the classes because they stack advantages that other people just frankly don't have, because they put in the extra effort, they do the extra work. You can think of them basically as sort of nerds, actually. I'm not sure. So yeah, the anime character I think associated with this level, I would say, is Light Yagami, because of the thing that I said before. A good identifier of being able to know if a student is of a mastery level in terms of their studying is the ability to be able to correctly predict questions before the exam happens. And this goes perfectly with how Light Yagami is able to predict all the actions of L in Death Note. I haven't seen it. I stopped midway. I don't know why. I was enjoying it as well. I just didn't have enough time. But yeah, I watched Death Note, and I think Light Yagami pretty well sums up, because he's the type of person to get top marks in all of his classes as well. I think that pretty much sums up what a mastery student is. So yeah, those are the 7 levels of mastery of being able to know how to study and studying. Bear in mind, these jumps from level 1 to level 2 to level 3, etc. These are not linear jumps. So for example, going from level 1 to level 2 or level 2 to level 3, there isn't that much of an increase in your studying skills. But going from level 4 to level 5, there's a huge increase, because you're going from being a passive student to being an active student. So yeah, these jumps in studying are not linear, so just try to get to the highest level as you possibly can. Apart from that, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you leave a like and comment and subscribe and all that stuff, and until then, I'll see you later. Peace.